I'm out on a backpacking trip here in the Canadian Rockies in order to test 4 pieces of gear that I think have a ton of potential and that I'm really excited about. I'm headed to one of my favorite backpacking spots in order to test gear that has the potential to be as good, if not better, than gear that costs 2 to 3 times as much. I'm going to be testing the new Trekology Ultralight R7 sleeping pad, the Nev Wear-Talk quilt, the Claus Nature one-person tent, and the infamous Decathlon MT100 pack. These 4 items combine to give you your big 3, which is your pack, tent, and sleep system, and it usually is the bulk of where you're spending your money. So it'd be really cool if these items could perform, especially with 3 of the 4 costing under $100. With the MT100 pack, Decathlon's claims are that this pack has really good carrying comfort, versatility, and ventilation. Right away, I can lay one of those claims to rest. The ventilation is not anything to write home about. I've only been hiking a few miles already, and my back is sweaty. It is a really warm day out, but there's a lot of contact between the padding on the pack and your back, and there's not really much ventilation to speak of. As far as the other 2 claims go, I'm really excited to test out the carrying comfort because this pack has an adjustable torso, which is really important for getting a good fit, which is key for how well a pack carries weight. It also has a really solid frame, good hip belt, and a lot of padding throughout the hips, back, and shoulders. As far as versatility goes, I'm interpreting that as the pack having organization and features that allows it to be used on a bunch of different types of trips. And right away, I've been thrown off by the fact that there's only hip belt on one side. The water bottle pocket's kind of interesting. And I'm a little bit uncertain about how all the features and the pockets work in order to improve versatility and organization and not be a detriment to how the pack performs. I have a few more miles to camp, which will give me a good amount of time to get fully acquainted with this pack. And once we get there, I'll let you know what my thoughts are when it comes to versatility and carrying comfort. The wind is picking up a little bit, which has me worried for the tent because the tent, based on the pictures I bought on Amazon and based on the pictures, it does not seem like it's the most robust tent. So we'll see whether I'm making it through the night. Made it to camp. I definitely have some thoughts about this pack, but first let's introduce the tent that I'm testing out on this trip. The tent is the Claus Nature Crux tent. You can pick it up on Amazon for 68 bucks. I have the 1-person here, but I think you can pick up both a 2-person and a 3-person if you need a bit more space. Claus Nature claims that the tent is lightweight, even though it does weigh 1,754 grams, so I probably wouldn't consider it lightweight. They also say that it's quick and compact, has an extraordinary design, we'll see about that, and that it'll keep you dry and comfortable in basically all seasons. My questions with this tent are whether the materials seem quality, whether the construction seems quality, because it's always hit or miss with Amazon products. I also want to see what sort of weather conditions I think this tent could handle, whether it could handle a lot of rain, a lot of wind. It is pretty windy today, so we might actually get to test that firsthand. I won't have to just kind of guess at it. And then I also want to see whether the 1-person is big enough for 1 person, or because it's a tent made and designed in China, whether the 1-person's a bit too small. I'm gonna get the tent set up and then we'll go over some of those questions that I had about the MT100 pack. As far as carrying comfort goes, the pack carried weight really well. I don't have a ton of weight in here, probably around 25, 30 pounds, but I barely even felt it. And like I mentioned, a big reason for that is the fact that the shoulders, the hips, and the back are just really well padded and really kind of just cushions you from the weight in the pack. There's 2 other things that contribute to this pack carrying weight really well. The first one is these really big, pearly aluminum stays that transfer weight down to your hips really effectively. And then the second thing is the fact that this pack has an adjustable torso and it adjusts really easily. You put the pack on, you pull these red straps, and that aligns the shoulder straps perfectly onto your back. And then you just do up the load lifters and you're good to go. This is the best adjustability system that I've ever encountered in a pack, and I was really able to dial it in pretty much perfectly for my body. The other question I had with this pack was whether it was designed in a way that the features and organization really led to the pack being effective in a lot of different kind of scenarios. And really, to be honest, I do like this pack, but I have some issues with how it was designed and the different features that are on it. The big thing is the pockets and the organization for me. On the right-hand side here, you have your water bottle pocket, which is really easy to grab, but it's a little bit hard to put the bottle back into the pocket with one hand if you're walking. I kind of had to stop, put the bottle in, and then continue on. There's also only 1 hip belt pocket on the right-hand side here. There's just nothing on the left-hand side. I would have liked to see either another pocket or at least like a loop for accessories. As far as side pockets go, you don't have anything on the left-hand side. You just have this zippered big stuff pocket. It kind of works for putting things like chairs or even water bottles if you don't need to access them throughout the day. But then you also have these straps so you can strap something down to the side of your pack. I've had a tent strapped down to here, but really I rather just a traditional side pocket. That's what seems to work the best for me and for most people out there. And then on the right hand side here, you have a bit more of a traditional side pocket above the water bottle pocket, and I really like this. You can stuff things inside of it. If you want to, you can have stuff sticking out a little bit and then use a strap to lock it down. This is just a great system where you get all the benefits of the water bottle pocket, but then also a traditional side pocket. On the top of the pack, you just have a traditional brain with a big pocket, zippered pocket where you can keep things like keys, inReach, stuff like that. And then on the front of the pack, you have nothing. You don't have any pocket here, nowhere to store stuff that you might need to access throughout the day. All you have is a big zipper that gives you access to the inside of the pack. And I don't really like these kind of zippers. I find them a little bit annoying to use. I don't really use them when they are on packs. The other issue that I have with this zipper is that it doesn't seem very durable. When I'm really packing this pack full, it seems to put a lot of stress on the zipper, especially around the top and the bottom. So where does that leave us with organization and features and the versatility of this pack? I think it's kind of hit and miss. There's a lot of really good innovative things that Decathlon has done with this pack, but then also some weird choices. If they make another version of this pack, I think they could really refine it and get something that's amazing, because it's a really good carrying pack. It's not super heavy, it's under 2 kilograms, and then a great price at $99, which makes it one of the most affordable yet still really functional, robust packs out there. For the tent, I'm pretty surprised at what you get for $68, starting with the construction. So it is a double walled tent, so you have a fly that goes over top of the inner. It uses aluminum poles for the frame and then polyester material for the body. And it feels pretty stable and pretty durable. The aluminum poles feel pretty solid, and then having a polyester fly material is great because it's not gonna sag or stretch when it gets wet. The coating of the polyester is polyurethane, so it will hydrolyze and start flaking off after 5 to 10 years, unlike tents that are made with either silicone or polyether urethane. As far as stormworthiness goes, this tent is way more capable than I thought it would be. It comes with a bunch of different stakeout points. In addition to the 4 at each corner, you also have one for the fly, one on the back, and one either side. And then there's 4 guy out points on the tent, and the tent comes with guy lines. So you can guy out all 4 points and really lock this tent down. It also comes with enough stakes to fully stake the tent out and guy it out, but they're kind of cheap aluminum stakes, and I've already bent one by stepping on it accidentally. As far as the limits go from a weather capability standpoint, I think it could handle rain, no problem. The fly is seam taped, it's coated, so it's gonna be waterproof. I'm almost 90% sure of that. For wind, I think the tent could handle more wind than you'd probably expect, maybe up to 70, 80 kilometers an hour if it's fully guyed out. Especially with this cross-pole dome structure, it just is a really storm-worthy structure. Something unexpected, but that's really cool, is that the tent has 2 vents, one on either end, so it's really gonna have effective airflow through the tent and deal with condensation really well. As far as space goes, I already have my sleep system inside there, and there's not a lot of space inside this one-person tent. With my long wide pad inside there is still a little bit of extra space on the sides and even a little bit at the ends, but it's really that kind of vertical space that you're gonna be limited on. There's also a pocket at either end, and then this detachable gear loft that you can put up on one side. Overall, I'm kind of blown away by this tent. It's really impressed me way more than I thought. I kind of went into this thinking this would be a bust as far as the gear that I'm testing on this trip, but I think it actually competes with the majority of freestanding one-person tents on the market. So if you're looking for a one-person freestanding tent, I would definitely consider this one. Long-term durability is always a question mark with these more budget-friendly options, but I think this tent could handle really crazy conditions. It could be a good winter tent. The only thing I'd do is probably replace the stakes that I brought with me. For my sleep system, I'm testing 2 new items on this trip, the Neb Wearita quilt and then the Trekology R7 sleeping pad. I've had tons of people requesting that I test out this pad, so on this trip, I'm getting it out in the field and seeing how it does. The big claims with the sleeping pad are that it provides all-season warmth, is compact and ultralight, and is durable as well. So those are definitely things that I want to test out and take a look at with this trip. The other 2 questions that I have is how comfortable is the pad, and is it just a Nature Hike 8.8 clone? Because if it is, then I know that it's probably going to be relatively comfortable, but probably not necessarily warm down to sub-freezing temperatures. As far as the ultralight and compact claim goes, it is a pretty compact pad, but it's definitely not ultralight. It weighs 905 grams for just the pad on my scale, and based on reviews on Amazon, most pads out there are weighing in around 900 grams. That's pretty crazy and definitely not ultralight in my books, but maybe it's resulting in a lot of insulation in this pad, which is gonna lead it to sleeping quite warm. Temperatures tonight are supposed to get down to about freezing, which should be a pretty good test on whether Trekology is way off with their R value evaluation or if it's gonna live up to its R value. The Wear Talk quilt, on the other hand, is the only item that costs over $100 on this test, and it costs $225, so it's not cheap. That being said, as far as quilts go, it's one of the least expensive ones on the market and has a lot of things that I'm really curious to check out. It has an advertised warmth rating of -2 degrees Celsius for the one I have here, but they say that if you run warm like I do, then you can probably get another 5 degrees Celsius out of it and be good down to about -5, -7 degrees Celsius. Part of the reason that this quilt is really interesting, other than the fact that they're quite conservative with their warmth ratings, is that it has a lot of features that are designed to keep you warm. You have a classic neck baffle, neck snap, and neck cinch in order to lock the quilt around your shoulders and neck, where you can lose a lot of heat if you're not paying attention and not doing those areas up. It also has a really good pad attachment system. And then the kind of big feature that's on this quilt is the fact that the pad attachment points are about 6 inches above the edge of the quilt. So you have these baffles that when you're tossing and turning, help seal up the quilt to the sleeping pad so you're not getting any chance of drafts coming in and cooling you off. This is a feature that I've used on the rock front quilts to great effect, and I'm sure it's gonna work just as well on the Wear Talk quilt. I think having a feature like this on a lower price quilt is amazing because it just makes it a little bit easier to use the quilts. There's not as many kind of nuances to setting it up in order to stay warm, and just one less thing to worry about. You don't have to worry about getting the pad straps in the perfect position. You just kind of set it up and you're good to go. Like with the sleeping pad, I'm gonna do an overnight test of the quilt, see if I get cold, see if I feel any drafts, and just generally assess the comfort of the quilt and how well it's put together. Tomorrow morning, I'll give you guys an update on the sleep system, let you know if there's anything new to know about with the tent, and give you a rundown of which of these items I think are worth buying and which are worth probably avoiding.
Good morning. Last night was interesting. Overnight lows got down below what I thought they would get down to -3 degrees Celsius. And I was definitely feeling that cold over the course of the night.
I think that most of the heat loss was happening through the sleeping pad, and my reason for thinking that is that last night I was only wearing my boxers and then this Alpha Direct sweater, and in previous experiences when testing sleep systems, I found that if my legs weren't properly insulated and the quilt or the sleeping bag wasn't warm enough, then I would definitely feel the cold around my leg area. Whereas last night, most of the heat loss that I was feeling was around my torso area. And having tested dozens and dozens of sleeping pads and quilts and sleeping bags, I can differentiate where heat loss is coming from pretty well. And I do think it was mostly happening to the ground through the sleeping pad. I didn't really feel much heat loss through the quilt, which is kind of surprising since we were getting down to that lower limit of the quilt. And I didn't have a lot of clothes on last night. A lot of the time, comfort ratings are based off of someone wearing a decent base layer and then a fleece mid layer. And I definitely didn't have that last night. Comfort wasn't as good as I expected it to be because I had pretty high expectations. This pad's very similar to the Nature Hike 8.8, which has been a very comfortable pad for me. And that's not to say that I wasn't comfortable last night. I definitely had a decent sleep, but I did wake up a few times over the course of the night to shift positions, which for me is indicative of the pad not being really, really good at pressure relief. If a pad's super comfortable for me, I just fall asleep and don't wake up basically at all through the course of the night. The quilt did a great job. Like I said, not a lot of heat loss happening through the quilt. Definitely felt warm with my top insulation, and the wind ended up picking up a little bit and I did not feel any drafts. The baffling system on the sides here definitely did a good job of locking the quilt down onto the sleeping pad, and I didn't feel any cold spots coming in or along the sides or around the neck with this awesome neck baffle and cinch system. So I'm very impressed with the quilt. It is expensive, but kind of in line with a lot of sleeping bags that are in the same temperature rating, but on the more affordable side. But the Wear Talk quilt weighs about 2/3 as much as those sleeping bags would. It's still heavier than ultralight quilts from brands like Enlightened Equipment and Z-Packs, but it has a few extra features that helps make it a little bit easier to use and a little bit warmer. I'd say that the test of the sleeping pad was a fail. I definitely don't think that it's going to be living up to its R value of 7. And I'm glad I took it out on a trip like this to test it out for the first time, and did take it out on like a winter trip or something like that where the consequences could be a little bit bigger. But I'm not writing the Trekology pad off completely, because at the price point that it's at, it is still a very good pad if it can sleep down to about freezing and be moderately comfortable. My experience with the tent last night was interesting because my initial impressions were very, very positive. And then I got inside of it and I realized how tiny of a tent this is. There's not a lot of room basically anywhere. When I sit up in the tent, both my shoulders are touching the side. There's only a little bit of headroom kind of in the middle, but my head's still touching the top, and my feet and my head were just about to touch the ends of the tent. I had enough space inside there, but it was very close. I'm 5'10", and anyone taller would have been touching both ends of the tent. So overall, still a very good tent, just very small, and that's something to keep in mind. As far as which of these items I think are really good buys and which are worth avoiding, I think the pack and the quilt are amazing and definitely worth taking a look at if you're looking for options that are more affordable and just generally easier to use as well. For the tent, I think it's a great all-around tent, especially for that price. It is a little bit heavy, but the features and the performance potential are off the charts for the price. If you're 5'10" or above, then this tent is gonna be way too small for you. Whereas if you're 5'8" or below, then you're probably gonna feel like you have enough room inside this tent, and it's gonna be a great option. For the pad, I'm not writing it off, and I don't necessarily think that my experience last night with being a little bit cold and a little bit uncomfortable should make you not look at the Trekology pad. It's still a very good price point that I think will get people down to freezing temperatures and be more comfortable than they would be on pretty much any other pad in this price range. Go check out this video if you want to see my full beginner backpacking gear list. The priorities were that I wanted the gear to be easy to use and affordable while still being lightweight and functional.